Hello everyone and welcome back to another Backlot Banter movie review. My name is Tucker Hazel. I am joined today by my co-host, the live-action adaptation of Tanner Dykstra. And today we're here to talk about one in a long line of live-action Disney remakes, the latest, The Little Mermaid. This has been a long time coming, and the internet has been ablaze about this movie for multiple reasons for years now. But we have finally gotten our eyes upon it. And Tanner, you were not very excited for this movie, but we're here to give our honest and full thoughts on it. But if you have seen this film or any other recent movies and you want to talk to us about them, we have a Discord server that you can join, and we can also hear your thoughts in the comments down below, or you can like this video and subscribe to the channel. It's a YouTube video, and that is your obligation. There's not a choice in this.
No, you are obligated to do so.
You signed the contract when you clicked on the
As
video.
we've said, if you watch our videos, you are required to subscribe. Because we subscribe to every channel from videos that we watch.
Absolutely, absolutely. Without fail. Tanner, yeah, you saw The Little Mermaid.
Yeah, I did.
Didn't you?
I did.
What do you want to tell me about this movie?
Tucker, I didn't like The Little Mermaid. About to the extent that I do not like the rest of the live-action Disney remakes, because I view them as futile, empty gestures for money grabbing from the Disney Corporation, and The Little Mermaid is really no different. We have a little friend here. I mean, there are some good things about each of these films, I think you can say, save for maybe like Beauty and the Beast, because I don't really remember that one. But there's something to like at least a little bit from all of these. And granted, maybe The Little Mermaid has some larger, grander things that you can like about it, such as Halle Bailey's performance, which I think is a point that we both agree on is a strength of this film. But on the whole, this 2-hour and 15-minute film is such an empty exercise for me. I was sitting there in the theater, and I was like, why am I doing this? Why I can't believe that I was checking my watch repeatedly. I couldn't believe that I was like, we're just doing this again, huh? We're not even done. They're just going to keep doing this and doing this and doing this. And it just seems like it was just really nothing for me. It just kind of washed over me like a big old wave, Tucker. Yeah,
it was a wave that I wasn't quite sure how I would feel about going in. I am not a Disney animated person. I'm even less a Disney live-action remake of Disney animated movies that I already don't care about person. But I think I was pleasantly surprised by The Little Mermaid. And that comes with a lot of caveats, because I still don't think this is a movie that I would strongly recommend to people in our camps that are of our demographic, that share the same kind of knowledge about the film industry and the sort of cynicism we hold towards these sort of movies, especially the Disney ones that have been so prevalent recently. But I enjoyed my time watching this film, because I do think that there is an element of energy and fun to this film through the performance of Halle Bailey that I think is probably the strongest performance that we've seen in any of these live-action Disney remakes.
Yep.
I mean, I'm so used to them being random A-list actor is thrown into iconic role and does a somewhat okay job at recreating it, but then doesn't add like really anything to it. But Halle Bailey I'd never seen before, and her showing up on screen here every time she was in the frame, I was having a good time. I think that she really gives her all to this, and as someone who doesn't know that much about the original Little Mermaid, and I'm sure I saw it when I was a kid, I didn't have any baggage going in about changes they might make to either the scenes, the pacing, the characters, the songs. And while I will say that this movie is too long, and I especially do not like that, my biggest criticism is the way that it fucking looks underwater.
Yeah.
The underwater CGI is really, really poor. I had a surprisingly good time with this movie.
Okay.
And it's a begrudgingly good time.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to be cynical about this, to be 100% honest. But as I was watching it, I was like, yeah, this is just, it's a fun family movie. And I think for what it is, it's about as good as you can do.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't like, this idea of like, oh, it's about as good as you can do. It's about as good as these Disney live action remakes can be because we don't have to keep making these. Hey, Disney, listen to me. You don't have to
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
making these.
There's the option.
Yeah, because
Stop.
if we want to briefly compare this to the original 1989 Little Mermaid, a film of which I'm not a huge fan. It's not even up there amongst my favorite Disney animated films. I think it's good. I think it's solid. It's just much more efficient with its storytelling, and it just looks better. The one moment where it really just kicked me in the teeth is the big climactic moment, the iconic shot from The Little Mermaid when Ariel like throws herself up on top of that rock, and the big wave comes up and splashes behind her. Now that is a grand image in the original 1989 version.
Yeah, probably the most iconic image in that movie.
Absolutely, and in this, it's not even it's pulled off worse, but it's also just like framed worse. Like we're off to the side, we're too far out for the wave to have a grand scale. The wave is small as well, like comparatively, like, and this is something that struck me is that all of these Disney live action remakes, The Little Mermaid included, take a fairy tale story, especially The Little Mermaid because it is based on a fairy tale novel, and they continually try to strip out fairy tale elements from it.
Yeah, try to make it as grounded as it can possibly be, as realistic physics-wise as you can get in this.
And
kind
that
of
just
story.
makes it less interesting. Like that is the whole conceit behind doing these live-action remakes, and it just bores me and irks me to no end. Another great example of The Little Mermaid here is what I think is. I have an argument for being the worst musical number in this entire film, which is Under the Sea, which is, for a lot of people, the best musical sequence in The Little Mermaid. One of the hands down best musical sequences ever in a Disney animated film. Excuse me, a lot of words.
Whoa, Freudian slip.
Yeah,
Freudian slip.
But in this version, the 2023 Little Mermaid, they don't change the lyrics of the song, so the lyrics are still the fish have the trumpets and these fish have the flutes and these fish have the bass and stuff like that. But they don't. There are no animals playing instruments as there is in that original version. There's nothing to give it that big bass flair on screen. You just have the regular music from the original behind it, and that's the moment where I was like, why are the fish not playing instruments? We have mermaids, we have magic, we have all this stuff, like...
They don't have lips.
Yeah, they don't have lips, because we need to make them real fish and real sea creatures. For what reason? It would be more interesting to see the fish playing instruments, like they typically do, but they just don't. And that was another moment where I was like...
as fish are known to do, play instruments.
Yeah, I don't know. But that was just another moment for me where I was like, we're just stripping it out for no reason. We're just stripping it out and... intentionally making this film less interesting for the purposes of making it live action and more realistic.
I gotta say, and this is not gonna make you particularly happy, but Under the Sea was my favorite scene in this movie because I really liked the way that they recreated all sorts of weird, interesting, like, kaleidoscopic visuals with realistic looking, mostly invertebrate undersea animals. I thought that the way that they incorporated different jellyfish and like flatworm weird animals and octopuses and squids and all sorts of crazy different things, and then they had like fireworks going off that were actually like minnows and stuff. I thought that was really visually interesting, and maybe I wasn't paying attention to the lyrics / I didn't like care that much that they weren't actually playing the instruments because I have no reverence for that original scene. But I thought in terms of visual creativity and using the actual live action animals to the most fantastical degree that I think they have been used in any of these movies, I actually really, really did like that sequence. And I think it does stand in contrast to most of the other musical sequences in this film, other than, I guess, the one where Ursula is trying to convince
Poor Unfortunate Souls, yes.
Poor Unfortunate Souls. Those are the only two that I think stand out visually to me as really impressive, like choreography-wise and kind of recreating or sort of matching what you would expect an animated movie to do with lots of things swirling around and effects and stuff. The other ones I found to be significantly more underwhelming and more in the vein of what you'd expect out of a live action musical, where they were just people standing around singing, or even worse, sitting in dark underwater caves with their head not properly attached to their bodies because there's CGI everywhere, which we're going to get into.
Yep.
That made them have no sense of place or weight or anything. But when they leaned really into the fantastic elements in Poor Unfortunate Souls and Under the Sea, I actually did find those to be more visually engaging sequences of the
film.
Sure,
and I totally understand that, because I think there is the attempt to do that in those sequences, but I think it goes back to what I was saying about, like, we are trying to make it more realistic, and for what? Like, yes, they are more fantastical comparatively to the rest of the musical sequences in this live-action version, but they pale in comparison to the fantastical fairy tale nature of the animated films. And why? Like, would it be any more complicated to make a cartoon live-action fish than it is to make a one-for-one live action, a one-for-one recreation of a real fish or invertebrate or little mushroom sea slug guy? I don't know. I haven't done animation. I can't say.
No, but it certainly wouldn't be.
Yeah.
I think they tried to go for as grounded of designs for the actual sea life as they could, maybe to give it more of a, sort of Animal Planet,
it's
big blue planet kind of vibe. It's like, but that doesn't quite work. I think especially so when what we're most focused on is the mermaids, which I think look terrible.
Yeah.
The garish colors on their fins, the ways that they don't quite match the skin that they're like morphing into, and especially the fact that this film has such a big overuse of CGI. Unfortunately, naturally so, but where the only thing that has any realness to it is the actor's face, and that face is just plastered onto a CGI, half CGI body where arms aren't quite matching the movement of the shoulders, and their head and their hair is like not connected to their head, and it's really awkward, and it means there's no weight to anything the scenes. Of course, it's underwater. They're not supposed to be. But
it's tactile. It's tactile is what
exactly,
we're looking for.
Yes.
It's maybe unfair to hold things to the standard of Avatar: The Way of Water, but I think you set the bar. So in the same company as well.
Sure.
So, but there's no tactility to anything underwater. People have been saying, "Oh, it's not as bad as the trailers would lead you to believe." I'm like, yeah, it's a little better, but that doesn't make it good by any stretch of the imagination. It looks quite poor, I would say, for a lot of it, especially when we're in the underwater sections. The above land is like a reprieve from this. I am alleviated whenever we get to go, go above the surface. Maybe we're supposed to relate with Ariel that way. A clever little design decision from Rob Marshall, a little directorial decision there to make everything look like ass underwater. But to that same measure, I want to talk about our little animal sidekicks, because Tucker, it wouldn't be a Disney film without little funny animal sidekicks. And we got Flounder, we got Sebastian, and we got Scuttle. Okay.
Yes. 3 of them for the price of 1.
Exactly. Flounder is just funny because not like by design in the film, but just because it's just a regular looking fish with tiny Jacob Tremblay voice coming out of it, and it can't emote.
And trying their best to match like human speech pattern lips onto fish lips, onto and it is unintentionally hilarious when he shows up in a scene and this little fish with its big dumb eyes comes out of the water. Fish face.
Yeah.
And I found that entertaining, but I didn't find it more entertaining than if he had more expressive eyes and the chubby cheeks that the animated Flounder has that gives him sort of this like baby childish look. This was just a fucking fish that was going at me every time it popped out its little dumb face out of the water.
Then you have Scuttle as voiced by Awkwafina. Fine, like it's an Awkwafina like cartoon performance. What do you expect? And then you have Daveed Diggs as Sebastian, who gets the most play out of any of these animal sidekicks in the film. And they try their best, I would say, with the Sebastian thing. His mouth opens as far as like a crab mouth can, and his eye stalks actually have like some expression to them, but it's all a variance of degrees in the very like bottom portion of this scale.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that those three characters are serviceable in their use, but they are not any. But they're not better than they would have been if they had been given a little bit less realistic design. You might have even been able to make them have more obtuse or creative designs in terms of their body proportions or their eyes or their expressions without losing the realistic texture work that went into creating these CGI animals. And I think that's where I'm most disappointed is, Scuttle could have been had a shorter beak and a little bit tubbier body, and it would have been just like a more interesting design for this character. As it stands, it's just a fucking booby.
Yeah,
like it's just a bird.
Yeah,
and say I think Sebastian does get away the most unscathed. I think that the emoting of that character and him having 8 legs to play around, or how many legs are kind of there's 6 and there's like 2 little weird ones that paddle.
I don't know.
That do different things, and he can like drop his shoulders down and he can float and like sort of squid around. I thought that was certainly the best use of one of these CGI animals in this movie, but the characters themselves don't really do too much.
I do want to
talk
talk
like
about
banter occasionally, but they don't really feel too much like they're a part of the plot. They're just sort of there to like help when Ariel can't talk.
Yeah, I mean, and that is, it's been a while since I've seen The Little Mermaid, 1989, but that is largely their role in that original film as well, in the story. They're just kind of like, they get up to antics, and then when it's time for Ariel and Eric to have like a little meet-cute moment, they're like, they're like hiding behind tree branches and stuff like that. It's like, oh, are they gonna kiss? Ooh la la. It's also weird to point out that in the original 1989 80-minute version of this film, there is more like antics for those characters. We're adding 50 minutes to this film, and we're cutting out songs and scenes somehow from the original. It's like there's a whole scene with like Sebastian like almost getting cooked by a chef and stuff like that in that original version. There's a whole bunch of antics like that, and that's just gone from this film and replaced with who's to say? It's
I don't know where the runtime on
how
comes from.
All of these live action remakes are longer and yet feel less complex and less involved than their original versions. But I want to talk about Ariel. I want to talk about Halle Bailey. She is the centerpiece. She is the Little Mermaid, Tucker, if you can believe it.
She is. No. Well, actually, she's not. The Little Mermaid is now a little jade statue.
That's true. Yes.
She is a mermaid.
She is a mermaid.
She's not the titular Little Mermaid is actually not a character. It's a piece of fucking rock.
That's true. It is. But as I said in the opening, she's good. Like she's a very talented singer. She brings all the power of her voice to these songs that she has. They even add one for her because I was reading some articles because I was bored during the movie. Alan Menken was like, yeah, we added another song for Ariel because otherwise she really only gets one by herself. And you know, even though Ariel's mouth is not moving during that because it's when she has given up her voice and she's sort of like singing it in her head. It's a good song. It's a good performance from Halle Bailey. Across the board, I think she does well in the dramatic stuff. What the script can do for her, she does a good job. When we're in our meet cute moments with Eric, I think it's pretty fun. It's pretty passable, honestly. Like, she's doing a good job, and I don't know what the actor's name is for Prince Eric, but he's doing a good job. They're a cute little couple.
Jonah Howard King.
Yeah, they're a cute little couple. When we're doing Kiss the Girl, I'm like, oh, okay, this is fun. When she's like racing the horse through a bunch of like fruit stands and stuff like that, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is nice.
Yeah, I think she brings every bit of life this movie has to it. Because, frankly, I think I can crap on almost all the other performances. I think the guy that is Prince Eric, I just said his name, I already forgot it. I think he does a totally fine job. He's an attractive guy. He has a passable amount of charisma. I think that he has a good chemistry for what it is with Halle Bailey. But she is just outshining everyone when she's on screen. Especially, I think, in an interesting choice, when she doesn't have her voice, I think her performance is actually better
Yeah.
because she's not underwater in
Yes,
those
true, that's
sequences,
important.
which is a benefit. So she's able to have a better sense of physicality with her, and when she's stumbling around because she doesn't quite know how her legs work yet, and she has to emote more physically with her face because she doesn't have her voice. I think she really sells those moments, and she sold me on her being the next big star for whatever she's going to end up being in the future. We know that she's in The Color Purple, which we saw the trailer for before this. But I think she's really, really quite fantastic in this. And I was surprised how much I liked her and how much she made me care for this version of this character that does, from what I know from listening to Grace Randolph's review, have a more of an adventurous edge to her. She's an explorer. She has this fascination with like collecting things that are like learning about human culture in an interesting way. I think that element of her feels very distinct and interesting, and Halle Bailey really does sell this sort of wanderlust that Ariel as a character has. And every scene she's in, I think is good because of her, but it makes the other elements by contrast feel even more sterile, stale, and bland because you're putting her up against Javier Bardem, who is just sitting there, and he's not moving much, and he's not emoting very much, and he just kind of got a rock costume on, and I'm like, really? This is what you're putting her up against?
Yeah, you can feel that like bravado that Halle Bailey kind of has, that star power that I think she frankly does have. And I'm excited to see her in a real movie surrounded by real things because yes, I liked her performance, but it just feels so stifled and weighed down whenever she's underwater and she's just kind of like, oh, whoa. Wow.
She's reacting to and poking things that aren't there.
She's looking at tennis balls flying around on set.
She's doing her best. Yeah. She's doing her best, but that does give it like I'm watching someone watch something that's not their vibe, and it doesn't sell the reality of this being her interacting with her friends, because that's what these little characters are supposed to be is her buddies, and you don't get that physical sense because they're non-existent characters.
Yeah. Tucker, is there anything else to add about The Little Mermaid? Is there anything we forgot to mention? Oh, Melissa McCarthy?
Yeah.
Listen, she's fine.
She's fine.
Like, speaking of bravado, I don't think that she brings that same, like, big, boisterous energy that the original voice actress for Ursula brought. Like, she's an iconic Disney villain for a reason. And Melissa McCarthy's doing her best, and I understand why they cast a Melissa McCarthy in this role. A Melissa McCarthy. I don't know why I said that. There's many of them out there.
A Melissa McCarthy type.
Yeah, Melissa McCarthy type. Melissa McCarthy. But, like, she's fine. Like she's doing her best again, but she's weighed down by the same issues that we've been talking about with Halle Bailey. I don't think she has this. She can really hold a candle to that original vocal performance. And it's when it's time for her to be a big giant monster, it's not really her, obviously, but also like they don't even really seem to use Melissa McCarthy's likeness because she's always shrouded in darkness. This is a very dark film, as indicated by a lot of the trailers as well. Our big final action sequence is shrouded in darkness and clouds and rain and stuff like that, and it's that at that point I was totally checked out. I was
absolutely right.
I was counting down the minutes to walk out of that theater because if I can wrap it up here, it's just that I just can't bring myself to care about any of these things because they feel so empty. Yes, this can deliver us a potential movie star like Halle Bailey. And yes, this can deliver us the sonorous musical masterpiece that is The Scuttlebutt, okay? But it can't deliver on anything else. These are they meant to be the definitive versions of these stories? Clearly not. I mean, we've been getting these for the last 5, 6, 7 years now, and no one talks about them. No one talks about them in the echelon of like great Disney films. They're always just like, oh, the Disney live action remakes, huck another one on the pile. And this might be at the top of that pile, but it's still a stinking heap of garbage, frankly.
I will continue to see these because I find it very fascinating. I don't have the same like cynical pessimism about these that I think most people like in my wheelhouse do, because I just find it very interesting that they're doing this, and we'll see how long it lasts. I mean, they keep making money, and this could be big for them. But I mean, I have no idea. Our theater was kind of only half-assed, which is surprising, to be 100% honest. But I thought this was fine. I had more fun in it than I was expecting to. I appreciated certain elements of it more than I expected to, but it still didn't blow me away in any capacity other than I have now seen Halle Bailey give a very good performance. And when a movie has nothing else going for it, like I don't care for the stakes, I don't care for the
it just fails to
design,
register on a lot of scales. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to get a 5.3 out of 10 for me. I think it is above average because I did enjoy my time with this, and if you're showing this to children, I think it is quality enough and the storytelling is like coherent enough. This isn't a poorly structured film in any capacity. It's just lesser than what came before, and it loses charm where charm could be had.
Yeah.
And that's very, very disappointing.
Yeah, I would even go so far to say as it is poorly structured if we're adding 50 minutes and not adding really anything else of real substance. Sure. I'm going to go a 3.8 on this thing.
All right, well, if you guys saw this movie, I'd be interested to hear if this is sort of the resounding best live-action Disney remake, because everyone we've talked to, our friend group, agrees that this is probably the best one.
I would agree, too.
It's easily the best one for me. But we could be wrong in that. I hate to start a conversation about praising the Disney live-action remakes.
Please don't. Please, God, no.
But comparing a turd to a turd, maybe this is not the worst turd. Yeah. Which it easily could have been. So,
and we got some turds on the way.
Props to Rob Marshall.
Yeah. Maybe Snow White will be another best of the Disney live-action remakes, but then we have, like, Lilo and Stitch and Moana and Hercules. I beg you to not touch... Hercules is one of my favorite Disney animation films, and they're doing it, and I am dreading it, Tucker. But we'll be reviewing it, won't we?
Oh God, Bill, and Tanner, I'm excited. I'm excited for that movie to come out, not because I want to watch it, but because
you want to see me tortured, is why.
I want to see you watch it. Yes, exactly. Well, we will see you guys then. No reviews in the meantime.
Hey, Petra, you give your thoughts on Little Mermaid.
She hates live-action remakes.
Yeah, me too.